So, most Christian women in my generation who want marriage more than likely won't get married. Let's talk about it and some other interesting things that I've discovered in my time as a Christian dating strategist. Hey friends. My name is Jumoke Win, and I'm one half of When I Love. My husband and I, we coach Christian women with faith and strategy. And if that sounds like something that you'd be interested in, make sure that you do like, subscribe, and you hit that bell so that you can continue to get more great content. Okay, so let's talk about three interesting, surprising things that I've learned as a dating strategist. I've been a dating strategist. My husband and I, we have been coaching women, coaching Christian women for the past 2 years. And there's a lot of things that I have learned primarily as the product developer and the product, well, the main coach. Like my husband, he coaches too, but more from like a masculinity perspective. I coach more from more of a femininity and practical perspective. So there's a few things I've learned. Just talking to women, doing my research. I tell my friends this and I'm like, I love my job, but it's depressing sometimes, right? I love when women get engaged, when they get married, when they start dating, they get into relationships, they're treated well by men. But then there's the part of my job that I have to be honest with my clients so that they can get results and so that they can make the best decisions possible for their own love story. Okay. So the first thing that I've learned is that things have changed, but expectations have not. The world as we know it has changed, but our expectations for marriage have not changed. What do I mean by that? There's so many different factors that people are not talking about, like Christian leaders are not talking about, well-meaning Christians are not talking about, pastors, all these people. No one is talking about this. And the issue with Christianity, this can be an issue. It's not strictly, just Christianity. I think it's just especially women in general, they tend to stay in their own echo chambers, and we don't have a good concept of reality. Then pair that with the public school system that most of us went through. They're not really teaching us like they taught us history, but it's kind of skewed. Like it's people don't. Let's just say people don't understand history. Okay, so for one, what was marriage intended to do, biblically and historically? Procreation and help. This idea that we have about marrying for love, I always tell people it's a modern concept. That just didn't happen until recently, right? For most of history, you got married because you wanted to procreate, you wanted help, you're building something together, and you move on, right? It was just a cornerstone of your life, but not a capstone. Now people are treating it as a capstone. This is something I do once I'm established and once I'm ready and once blah, 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 blah. But we're not even thinking about the limitations that we have, especially as women. We're not fertile for all of our life. So if you want to procreate, you want to be fruitful and multiply, that's the first commandment that the Lord gave humanity. Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. You can't sit here, like wisdom would tell you, you probably shouldn't wait until the last minute to think about marriage, right? Wisdom would tell you, you should probably settle your home at a younger age or at a prime age rather, so that you have the best chances of building a family and building a legacy. However, most Christian women, because of bad teaching, they're just sitting ducks. They're just sitting there being a good girl, doing nothing until the last minute. And then they wake up one day, they're 35, their biological time clock is ticking, and then they're scrambling to get married. And then they're upset at the church because they're like, well, why did anyone tell me? This is what we have. Like when women come into our program all the time and they hear our teaching, they're so like sometimes you have to grieve what you didn't know and what people didn't know, and people have misled. They could have misled you. Even first Timothy 4:1 says, in the latter times people will follow deceiving spirits that will forbid them from marriage, right? So we're in the later times. When you read the Bible, none of this is new, right? All of this was to be expected. We live in a fallen world. And for a lot of Christian women who are waiting until the last minute to finally think about marriage because they thought it was just going to happen this whole time, nothing. And it's just so many different, like I said, factors that go into that. There's the way and not date made sense about 30 years ago, before technology, when people were outside, when you met people organically. Sure, when people were in churches, when you met people at school, when you met people at the mall, and you met people just going outside doing normal things. But now we're in an age of technology. Everyone is indoors. Heck, even Uber Eats is right there, DoorDash. Like, you don't have to leave your house for anything. We have remote work. And then let's not forget about COVID. A lot of us lost a couple of years, and we're losing track of time and the track of our own biology and our own bargaining power in the dating market. Another thing that has changed that women don't realize is men are not making as much adjusted for inflation as they were in the 50s. The 50s is the time that I think that most women idolize. They're like, oh, I think that he should be able to make at least, I hear women say at least six figures or more than that. He should make double of what I am. He should have his own house, have his own career, be like this, be godly, um, go to church, know the Bible more than I do. And all of that is so understandable. I get it, because if your own father was able to provide you with a house, right? He had a stable job, and maybe sometimes faith was a cornerstone in your family. It makes sense to expect the same thing that you see from Gen X and boomers, right? However, the issue, and I did a whole thing in the Single to Wifey bootcamp and I talked about marriage mastery. So I definitely encourage you to go check it out so you can watch the full video to understand, because I broke down history and I walked everyone through how did we get here. And it's really important that we understand history, because if we still have the same expectations that people have had for the last 100 years, but reality does not reflect those same expectations, then most people are going to end up single. Because once we had hyperinflation, the gold standard was cut, and it's just so many different things in our economy has happened that the wealth gap has increased tremendously. The rich are super rich, and everyone else's wage stagnated, even though the price of living went up. So the average man today, okay, in 2025, cannot afford a house, cannot afford a big wedding, cannot barely afford kids. So with everyone getting pushed lower, people don't realize that the class structure has changed. What we thought was middle class is not middle class anymore. A lot of people went from middle class to working class, and they still think that they're middle class, and they still have middle class expectations without middle class money. You understand? And women just don't know the stats. We said in the boot camp, I think, I forgot what the median income for men in the United States is. I forgot. It's either 60 something thousand or 80 something thousand. But for black men, which is our primary, black women are our primary demographic, and they want black men. The median, you take all the black men, you line them up in a row. What's the median, which is closer to the average black man? How much is he making? About 42,000 per annual. Yeah. So if you want a successful, hot, rich man, they're not in high supply. What you think is a given is not in high supply. You want a man who goes to church and is godly. Those men are not in high supply. They're either already married, or most women are not attracted to him. They're not, like we hear all the time, I'm not attracted to him. He's not, he's lacking his masculinity. It's always something, right? And the church, mainline churches, are 66% women, even more so in the black community. So where does that leave you, right? If you are having this expectation of this is what I want, but what you want has not been commonplace for the past 70 years. What you want is not common anymore. And I think because women have a certain expectation that doesn't match reality, this is why they're going to stay single. And then, like I said, add in with this idea of marriage is just supposed to emotionally fulfill me, when marriage was always a practical thing. It was never about emotional fulfillment. It was never about how do I feel with this person. You just married someone who made sense, who had similar values that you did, and you moved on with your life and you made it work. Right? So that's one. Let me move on. I'm gonna be talking. The second thing that I've learned is the odds are not in your favor, and I kind of alluded to this just now, but again, our key demographic is Black women, and if you look at the demographics today, well, 2023, only in the United States, the percentage of Black women who are married is like 27%. That's about 1 in 4. 1 in 4 Black women are married. Where does that leave the other almost 70%? I mean, 75% single. Single. So in that 75%, I'm sure that probably the majority of that 75% wants to get married, but there are different issues that, like we're not talking about these things, right? We're just saying, just pray, just this. So that's one, right? It's already Black women have the lowest marriageability rate of all races of women in the United States. Now let's talk about, like I said, income. Most women, not just Black women, most women, they don't say this because they don't realize what they're asking for. They want a high value man. A high value man is a man that is high value on the dating market to women, not intrinsic value. I'm not saying a man who's homeless on the street doesn't have any value. I'm just saying when it comes to marriageability, who has the highest marriageability to women? There's a reason they're high value. They're not average. So for most of men that exist, they're invisible to women. And because they're invisible to women, women think that the top 20% of men should be what is the average man. It's not the average man, right? The average man is not getting any play. And since you are one of 80% of women that's gunning for 20% of men, the odds are not in your favor because you are ignoring average men who make average salary, who are average in looks, just like you, and you want more than what you can bargain for, because a lot of women think that their income means something to men. It really doesn't, right? It shows that you're competent, but it doesn't put you at the top 20% of men just because you have a job. Just because you have a job and you're making a lot of money, women say, I want a man who's making double as much as I am. Fair. Again, that makes sense. That preference makes sense. It's just that's not what men are looking for. I always give this analogy, but it's like a man who's short, has long hair, has a big butt, and is broke, is saying that, I want a woman who's just as fine or even finer than me. That's what you sound like when you keep saying that, when you keep assuming that your degree, your accolades, and your income is what's putting you to the top, or what is qualifying you rather for the top 20% of men. No, it's not, right? They have more leverage than you do, and your leverage is not your income. Your leverage is your femininity. It's your looks. It's your youth, right? It's other things that men are looking for. They're not looking for those things. Those things are good, but you got that degree and that job for yourself. It's not like you're going to take that money and give it to him. He's not benefiting from your income. It's just, again, like a man who goes to the gym, he has a big butt. That's great for him, right? Like, I love that for you. You must have put in a lot of work and a lot of discipline to get your butt that big. But me as a woman, am I looking for that? Right? Maybe not. Okay. So the odds are not in your favor. And women don't realize that. And because women don't realize that, women are still sitting here in delusion, still thinking that they have more bargaining power on the dating market than they actually do, and still thinking and deceived that there are more high value men who are attractive and have high income than actually exist, and who are spiritual, and who are abstinent, right? Like you, and who are in their denomination, and who come from their background and tribe. And when you keep having all these confounding variables stacked on top of one another, women don't realize that, only like 5 men in the entire world fit all these criteria that I'm looking for. Or in my country, or in my city, there are only 10 men that fit all these criteria. And that doesn't even include men who are who are gay. That doesn't include men who are already married or in relationships. And that doesn't include men who want me and will choose me. So women don't realize how narrow that their preferences have made their dating pool, and they're still in la la land thinking that this man is just going to magically show up. Wow, one of five men that could exist is just going to show up to your front door and ask you to marry him. Okay, and then the last thing I learned as a dating strategist is that feminism has changed how women see the world. So feminism, I mean, first wave feminism makes sense. You know, women got the right to vote and the right to own land and to open up credit cards and things like that. That makes sense. They have autonomy within marriage. Second, third, and fourth wave feminism, that's when, you know, women went off the rocker. That's when women wanted to be men. That's when they fought for reproductive rights and all these things. All that aside, feminism has changed the way that women see themselves and women see men. Women see men as the bane of their existence. A lot of women who have really drunk the Kool-Aid and have almost pigeonholed themselves into, like, it's like you believe what you're exposed to. So if all you're seeing is men are trash and they do this and they hurt women, sure, but that's not actually a large percentage of men. Because like I said, average men are not getting much play. Average men are exactly what they are, average. What women are usually complaining about is the top 20% of men that they're all sharing, right? And they're having issues with. And since he has more leverage than all of you, because he got 10 women who want him at the same time, that's where you're seeing the issues, right? And then like I want to say, because I don't know what the percentage is, but it can't be the majority of men that are narcissists. Like it doesn't even make sense, like statistically speaking. So you're not talking about the majority of men, but women have a skewed perception of how they see men. They see men as incompetent, as, just all these negative things, but at the same time demand marriage. And you can see how that type of attitude and that misandry, it translates into dating. And it makes them more unmarriageable, because I always tell women, don't try to fight a system you want to benefit from. You can't sit here and say that what men want is patriarchal. If a man says, oh, I want a woman who submits to me, who's attractive, who's young, patriarchy. Okay, so then stay single, right? You don't have to you don't have to agree with what someone else wants. If you can't offer that to them, and if you don't think what they're asking for is good, then you can always choose singleness. That even the Bible says you can choose celibacy. That is your choice. If you want to take a vow of celibacy and abstain from marriage for life and dedicate yourself to the kingdom of God because you don't want to deal with men, that's fine, but stop complaining about it. Just get off the dating market so that other people can, like the ones who want marriage, can stay on and find each other. But again, feminism has contorted how women see men, but also how they see themselves. So there's a lot of toxic feminist propaganda that women have accepted. Like, essentially women think that they're better than men in all shapes and forms. They think they're better than men as far as education, as far as mentally, as far as emotionally, as far as financially. We think that we make better decisions than men. And we also think that we have higher bargaining power than men. Now, in some cases, is it true? Perhaps, right? Sure, you have a degree, because women are, look at the research. Women are getting more degrees than men. Women are graduating with their degrees at higher levels than men. It's like 2-to-1 at this point. So for every 2 women who have a degree, 1 man has a degree. So are women more educated? Probably, right? Probably. But there's such a lack of humility, A, and B, the issue that women are going to keep running into, and what we tell women, you only have 2 options if you want to get married. Well, 2 practical options. The third one is still going to keep you single, even though most women want to take it. You can either accept the men who want you, who want to marry you right now as you are. They're willing to marry you. They see you as their dream girl. They're willing to put up with your nonsense, right? They accept you how you are. You don't even have to change or do anything differently. They will marry you right now. Okay, but the issue is that we'll say they're not attractive enough. They're not making enough. Well, that's your level. Or B, you can level up and position yourself as the dream girl of a higher quality man. But right now, if he's not checking for you, if he doesn't want to marry you, if he's not attracted to you, what women want to do is stay the same, put in no effort, and get maximum outcome. They're going to stay single, right? Like, you can't just demand the highest level. Like, you can't demand a man who has put in so much effort into being who you want him to be, and you put in absolutely no effort into being who he wants you to be for him. So both are difficult options, but that's just what it is, right? That is life. But yeah, those are like the three things that is really shocking to me. And those three things, like I said, is the combination of those three things is why I think this is unfortunate, most Christian women will be single, because it's even women of the world already. There's a stat that says by 2030, in 5 years, that almost half of working age women in the United States are going to be single and childless. It's worse for Christian women because Christian women are in deception. They're not actively dating. They're sheltered more. So the numbers will probably even be worse for Christian women than women in the world, simply because of all these variables I just said. And then you add Christian culture on top of that. Unfortunately, most are going to be single. But that is what I have to say. Let me know what you think about this video in the comments below. Make sure you click the link in the description box if you want to get more strategic help and coaching from my husband and I with to get to the altar. Make sure you hit the link, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.